In today's show, we look back at Sunday's action. I hope you won your fantasy matchup, whether it's to get into the playoffs, whether it's during the playoffs, whatever the situation. Some big games, lots to talk about. Michael Bolton, he's sitting in.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com. And you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, and the promo code is Locked On. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Okay, we're here to talk about 10 games from Sunday. Congratulations if you made it through your week one of the playoffs. Congratulations if you made it into the playoffs. At the time of me recording this, it looks like I'm going to make it through the first round of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl playoffs. We'll see though. The games, me starting to record this, the games aren't finished. There's one game left. I think I'm going to make it, but hey, we will see how that ends up by the end of the show, whether I'm in tears or I'm happy to get through to the final four of my division there. Anyway, we're going to talk about all of the stuff that happened across Sunday. So, Warnie.
Let's get it on, Gilly.
All right. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is back. But is he? I mean, yes, he is, but is he? Now, some things came out from Mark Dagnott today saying that the abdominal injury that Shai has suffered, the only real way to fix this is through rest, very similar to the abdominal injury that Damian Lillard has had in the past. And they said, look, we're just going to try and manage it, because if this was an injury in October, he would just sit out and he'd get healthy and he'd come back. And Dagnott said, because it's not, there's only 19 games left, well, we're going to manage him through the rest of the season because we want him to play. We're going to have to watch what we do in terms of rotations and how many minutes in a row he plays. We're going to watch what happens on back-to-backs. Now, the immediate thing that 95% of people reading that said, well, he's shut down. He's done. He's shut down every year. Every year this happens. And the hyperbole that I hear, or I heard about it, was insane. This is the fourth year in a row. No, it's not. It happened last year. And you know what the date of the last game that Shai played last season was? The 21st of March. Right? 21st of March. He played until the 21st of March last season. So every year, and the ones that really bug me with this are that, well, if you ever watched any basketball, if you ever paid any attention, you knew the Thunder were going to do this. Do what? Get him hurt? Like, he is playing. This is not a shutdown. He is playing in games. Yes, they might limit his minutes, although he played, 37 minutes today. He might sit some back-to-backs. That's cool. Like, Chris Middleton then therefore has been shut down all season. Al Horford has been shut down all season. Like, he might miss back-to-backs. They didn't even say that he will sit all back-to-backs, and I am not precluding it. He could get sat on back-to-backs, Shai. He might see his minutes limited as we move forward. They said that they would monitor it. Didn't happen today. And I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. But the level of told you so's, or this is why I'm never drafting him, or this happens every time, like clockwork, on the dot, every year, it's going to happen. He's definitely shut down. Look at this, it's shut down. It's just not true. We don't know what they're going to do, but the statements, again, from all Thunder media as well, and from the coach, suggest that they're doing the opposite. They're trying to manage it so he plays through the rest of the season, not so he sits out, because they could have just sat him out. They deliberately said if this was another time of the year, he would have sat out, but he is not sitting out. So I don't know how to balance that. We'll talk more about the Thunder later. He was great. They were great. And he will miss time and he will have some minutes reduced at some point. No problem with that. That'll happen. But the doom, or the people who have deliberately avoided Shai because they were guaranteed that this was going to happen, this is not, he has not been shut down. Simple as that. Rob Williams, he's out for 7 to 10 days with a hamstring. You're in the fantasy playoffs. He's an injury-prone big man who's got a hamstring injury that might be, let's say it's 2 weeks. It's probably 2 weeks at least here with a hamstring injury. Move on. If you're in a points league, it's a no-brainer. You move on. In a category league, I get it. And again, the caveat will always be applied here. If you have an open IL slot, you don't need to drop him. But otherwise, you can drop. It's frustrating. We'll talk more about what the Celtics did today without Grant Williams. Their game tomorrow is going to be a disaster considering how long this game went for today. But we'll talk about that later on. The other big news, and we talked about this quite a bit yesterday, Ja Morant out indefinitely. He's got the 2-game suspension, but he's also going to be taking time away from the team. It feels like, and I said when I talked about this yesterday, I said, look, this feels like 2 weeks. The more I think about it, it feels like more than 2 weeks. Again, is he a drop? It's a very tough call. It's a very tough call. You're talking about a second-round points guy, a fourth or fifth-round category league player that you just don't know when they're going to be back. He won't be back this week. I feel really comfortable in saying that, but I don't know that for sure. We know that we have to add Tyus Jones, and I'd probably like to wait a little bit for Ja, but let's be honest, as we sit here, me here on the 6th of March, the odds of him playing in March don't feel like they're over 50%. And that makes it really tough to hold on because fantasy season, fantasy playoffs are probably over by the time he returns would be my guess. But I don't know that. The Pistons, we had the preview show earlier today, the What to Watch For show, saying they had 1 million guys on the injury report. They actually added 2 more people to that injury report. Jim Wiseman is questionable and Rodney McGruder is questionable. And they ruled out Bojan Bogdanovic, Isaiah Stewart, and Jalen Duren. So we're going to get big opportunity again for Bagley. We're going to get big opportunity for Bagley the third and maybe Bagley the fourth, whether he plays or not. Killian Hayes is also questionable, so he could be in or out. So we might get, if he is out, that's Burks and Hampton who get big minutes. I feel like this team is going to be as egregiously annoying as what the Spurs are going to be for the rest of the season with guys in and out. And it's just relying upon them on a nightly basis is going to be really, really tough to do. But that's where we sit at the moment. Bojan, Stewart, and Duren are all out for tomorrow. Hayes is questionable. Wiseman is questionable. McGruder is starting legend. Rodney McGruder is questionable. And Alec Burks is actually off the injury report.
Alec Burks.
And he could have a fairly sizable role, I would suggest, tomorrow if Hayes is out, with Bojan already out. But Diallo's got a big opportunity there. Livers has an opportunity, but not as good as Diallo, I don't think. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy, but it's not the daily fantasy that you've seen in the past. It's not lineups and salary caps and all that stuff. It's player projections. It's Marvin Bagley rebounds 7.5, and you go, all these guys are out, I'll take more. Or you'll see Jaden Ivey at 14.5 points. You go, I'll take more. And you get between 2 to 6 of those individual player projections. You put them into a lineup, and you can win up to 25 times your entry fee back. Simple as that. You can do it in under 60 seconds. You can do it over 30 states. You can do it in Canada as well. You can do it for many sports. You can do it for Major League Baseball, the NHL, for college basketball, both men's and women's, European basketball, cricket, PGA, MMA, boxing, NASCAR, and of course, disc golf. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Okay, let's go on to the first game. Early one this was, and it was the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks. The Suns get the win over Dallas. You're trying to get the revenge game going from the playoffs last season. Not that that really makes up for it, but that's what they're trying to do. They get the victory, 130-126 the final score. Durant and Booker just taking every shot. Durant, 40 minutes restriction over. Told ya, he just comes back and he's Durant. 37-7, 3 threes, a block, 71% shooting, 10 of 11 from the line. Insane. Devin Booker, 36, 5 and 10, 40 minutes. Big numbers for both of those guys. And it's everyone else who's just not taking shots now. Ayton took 6 shots. He had 9 and 16 with a block. Still use in that, but usage well down. Chris Paul, 11, 6 and 7 on 9 shots, 44%. Okay. Okogie still somehow had 13 shots, which is crazy. He only played 22 minutes, but had 9 points on 23% with 2 steals. I don't think that Josh Okogie's a 12-team league player. There's just too much uncertainty with his shooting, with his minutes, with his shot attempts, for me to look at him as a 12-teamer. Cameron Payne had 5 assists in his 15 minutes, and then the rest of this team, outside of those main four, Durant, Booker, Ayton, Paul, there's nothing. Like, I'm not interested at all, really, in Okogie or Payne or Wainwright or Ross or even Tony Warren, who played 3 garbage time minutes here. They are who they are. And the Mavericks are pretty much the same because Kyrie had 30 points with 7 assists in his 37 minutes. Luka Doncic.
Oh, stunning. Yeah.
34, 9, and 4, but shot only 35% from the field. But in a rare twist, he went 17 of 19 from the line, Luka. Big games from those guys. And it was also Tim Hardaway who chimed in. 21 with 6 triples. Now, there's nothing else. 21, 1, and 1. That's what Hardaway does. And you never know what you're going to get. 8 points on 15 shots or 21 points on 10 shots. The 10 shots is a little concerning because that's low usage. And the fact that he had to hit 60% to get to this makes it hard to rely upon. But as a 3-point streamer, sure. Josh Green started and went scoreless in 28 minutes. He had 3 rebounds and nothing else. And you do not need Josh Green in 12-team leagues. In fact, I implore you to not have Josh Green in 12-team leagues.
Get that garbage out of here!
The Crucifix played 22 minutes, 17 points for Christian Wood. That's good on the surface, but remember, Maxi Kleber was out. So if he only got 22 minutes again with no Kleber, is he going to be under 20 next game? I think that if you wanted to drop Wood, do it. Like, the 17 points is nice, but the upside feels so bloody limited with this guy that if it doesn't make sense on your schedule, if it doesn't make sense in your team, don't look at him as a whoa, what if? Like, this 22 minutes might actually be high watermark because without Kleber, they played him a little bit more. They didn't get McGee into the rotation. So if Kleber plays, where the hell does Wood sit? Probably not even at 17 points in 22 minutes, honestly. So I would expect him to drop off from there, and that means if you want to drop him, go ahead. Reggie Bullock, 10 points with 2 threes in 39 minutes. He's just a 3-point streamer at this point. I don't really see much change in there. The Pacers and the Bulls, 125 Indiana, 122 Chicago. There was no Aaron Nesmith, so they started Jordan Nwora, but of course starting Jordan Nwora meant that for some reason he had to play him the low Aaron Nesmith role. Why? I don't know. 22 minutes for Nwora, 10, 5, and 2 with a steal. I like him in deeper leagues, but that's really about it. While Nembhard continues to fall off. 4 points in 20 minutes. Jesus. He has really fallen apart. And with Nesmith out, we got Brissett back into the rotation. He had 10 points in 19. They went again with Isaiah Jackson as the backup center. 6 and 7 with a block. I have zero confidence that Jackson's the backup tomorrow. I thought he would be the backup today, but it could be back to Jalen Smith tomorrow. That is actually what I'm expecting. So we'll see what happens there. Duarte had 15 points with 5 threes. Last 2 games from Duarte have been really strong. But with Duarte and Hield and Nwora and Nembhard and McConnell and Mathurin, the minutes just aren't consistent. So I'm not adding. Well, Mathurin had a good game, 17, 4, and 3 in 34 minutes. But of course, a lot of other games are bad. And he's not a must-roster guy. Halliburton was questionable heading into this one. No update on whether he's playing tomorrow, but I'd watch that one. 19, 3, and 11 for Tyrese, while Turner had 16 and 3 with 3 blocks. I wouldn't be shocked if Halliburton and Turner sit tomorrow, which might open quite a bit for Smith and for McConnell and for Jackson. Maybe. For the Bulls, Zach LaVine, 42 points. 4 rebounds and 4 assists, while Vooch had 12, 9, and 5.
It's Big Vucevic.
3 steals and 2 blocks as well. Really good game from Vooch, who had fallen off a little bit prior to this. Well, let's do a check-in on DeMar DeRozan's free throw shooting. There we go. Back in business. 4 of 4 from the line. He had 23, 5, and 3 with no defensives there. So they also changed their starting lineup up again. Patrick Williams back to the bench. Alex Caruso back starting. 2 steals for Caruso in 27 minutes. That's what he brings. He brings steals, and he brought them. So if you need steals, he's there. While Williams had 14 in 21 minutes, he's only a deeper league player. Pat Beverly had that one game where he had, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and he shithouse in every other one. 5, 6, and 3 for Beverly in 32 minutes, but his minutes are so well up that it's pushed Dosunmu to basically garbage minutes. 15 minutes for Dosunmu. Neither of those guys are 12. Beverly's maybe a 14-team league guy, but even then, I'm not 100% convinced he's going to maintain 14-team league value for the rest of the way. The next game, the Golden State Warriors, they lose to the Lakers, 113-105. For Golden State, the good news is Steph returned. 32 minutes, 27, 2, and 6 with 5 threes. But 32 minutes in his first game back is huge. There is still no Andrew Wiggins, and I don't know if he's going to be available to play on Tuesday. So that means we just keep holding the big ragu Dante DiVincenzo, who played a team-high 37 minutes. 11, 7, and 6 on 25% shooting. Now, that's obviously horrible, the shooting. But the other stuff's good and the minutes are good, we hold on. I talked earlier today on the waiver wire show about John Kuminga. Everyone was adding John Kuminga and I said, I'm not really sure that this level of efficiency and playing time is going to stick? Well, 5 points, 20% shooting, 13 minutes. I didn't think he'd play this little, honestly. I didn't think Andre Iguodala would come in and steal his minutes, but he did. So obviously, we should feel okay if we're dropping John Kuminga.
Get that garbage out of here!
This was the last game on the two-way contract for shipbloke Anthony Lamb. 6 points in 27 minutes with 6 rebounds and 2 threes. I don't know whether they sign him to a full-time contract. They'll have to get rid of Lester Quinones, who's on that 10-day, to bring Lamb on. We'll see. But we're only looking at him in very deep formats. Well, Jordan Poole shockingly struggled coming off the bench. 10 points, 28 minutes, 27% shooting. That's been the story of Poole's season, really. Draymond had an issue with his hand. He did play through it, but let's watch that. 15, 8, and 3, while Clay had 22, 5, and 3 in Steph's return. For the Lakers, Davis was amazing. 39, 8, and 6 with 2 blocks. And it was also another good game from Austin Reeves. Now, we still don't know what happens when D'Angelo Russell returns, but Reeves had 16, 2, and 8, a steal, and a block with 3 threes. And that's 3 of the 4 games without LeBron that Reeves has been really good. And the one in between, he was shithouse. He should have played more in that one still. Reeves is a 12-team streamer. I wouldn't rush to add him, but he has a little bit of value there. Jared Vanderbilt, 24 minutes, 10 and 13. I think he's a good player, but there's just not huge upside in him, unfortunately. Roster him, sure, but he's not this savior sort of a player. Troy Brown, what is this? 41 minutes, 14 points, 8 rebounds, 4 threes. That's a great game. I think he will lose his starting spot when Russell returns, and they'll keep Schroeder and Russell starting, but they might not. So we just watch that a little bit. While Schroeder, the shooting is terrible. 11 points, 31% with 6 assists, but there's enough there to have him rostered for the time being. While Malik Beasley, we know the problems with him. This is not bad, 12 points with 3 rebounds, but if we're not getting multiple threes in, then what are we doing? 12 points, 1 3, nothing else. That's the problem with him. Over the last week, despite what seems like good numbers, he's 178th in categories. That's not really good enough. I think you still hold him, but he's not the absolute got to hold on under all circumstances sort of a player because of the limited contributions and the inconsistency in those limited contributions. Lonnie Walker had 7 in 15 minutes.
Hello.
And Hachimura had 2 in 20 minutes. Remember when Hachimura was going to be their savior? Mo Bamba sprained his ankle after 2 minutes, so Wenyen Gabriel got those minutes. Hachimura and Mo Bamba are still rostered in like 15% of 12-team leagues. That's ridiculous. There's absolutely zero need for that to be a thing. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. And when you're looking for a delicious treat, you want something that's going to be good for you. And that's what Built Bar is. Covered in 100% real chocolate, these taste amazing. Instead of going for a candy bar, which of course tastes good too, but those things are so laden with high calories and fat and sugar and no protein. Built Bar, the opposite. All those other bad things, really low. The good things, like taste and protein, very high. And now, instead of just going to Built.com, you can go straight into a Walmart or a Sam's Club and find them. In Walmart, they've got the 4-bar boxes, coconut puff, cookies and cream, and double chocolate. In a Sam's Club, they've got 2 different flavors, churro and brownie batter in a 13-bar box. So go to Built.com, get your boxes, get them delivered to your house. Simple stuff. Or in a Walmart, they're right there, or a Sam's Club, they're right there as well. Built Bar is built different. The Hornets and the Nets. The Nets, 102, Charlotte, 86. Mark Williams.
Oh, hi, Mark.
10 and 14. Would have liked a little bit more from Williams in terms of minutes. I'm a little worried or need to watch, is PJ Washington going to play more small ball impacting Mark? I'm not super worried. I'm still obviously must roster, but I'm a little worried there. Dennis Smith, 15, 6 and 6. Good game from him. He is a 12-team league guy, but many people asking this, would you drop him for Tyus Jones? Yes, I would. Gordon Hayward had 12, 4 and 3, and Oubre, he's going to miss a lot of shots, man. Your field goal percentage is going to feel really sore after every time he plays. But 17, he's going to take a lot of them as well. 17 and 7 with a block. It's an absolutely huge recipe for losing, but maybe that's what they want. While Rozier had 16 points on a equally, actually worse field goal percentage, 29%, 16, 4 and 4. Good to see PJ Washington Jr. return, 8 and 8 with 2 threes, but he also somehow shot worse than both Oubre and Rozier at 27%. He's prone to that. We know that. It makes him very hard to roster at times, but also the good times are awesome. The inconsistency is what kills you. For the Nets, Mikal Bridges, 41 minutes. Jacques, settle down. 33 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists and a block. Elite efficiency, got to the line. He looks awesome. He's really taken on. Even when he was tasked with a larger usage role in Phoenix, he didn't look this good. He looks amazing here. Well, Dinwiddie had 24, 8 and 8 with 2 blocks, and Claxton only 27 minutes for Clax, but 8 and 12 with 3 blocks. Still getting it done. We just hope there's a little bit more there. Finney-Smith, 2 blocks is okay, but we're only looking at him as like a 14-teamer, while Cam Johnson had a bit of a knock to the nose, went to the locker room, returned, had 11 and 10. The shots just wouldn't fall. 23% on 13 attempts. They'll be better. What about the bench? Cam Thomas played 7 minutes for the second consecutive game.
Get that garbage out of here!
To be honest, I don't think he's going to play 7 minutes a night moving forward. I think he is going to have runs where he's at 20 minutes a night, but he's so one-dimensional. He's so limited in his game. He's so limited in his minutes that you can't wait for that to happen because it literally might not come. And when it does come, how reliable is he going to be? The answer is probably not very. And he's just not giving us anything. Seth Curry looks cooked, man. 2 points on 0 of 8 shooting in 16 minutes, while Joe Harris was actually pretty good, 12 points in 18 minutes. But the Nets get a huge victory here over the Charlotte Hornets. The next game we look at is the Portland Trailblazers and the Orlando Magic. Should I do the song even though they lost? Yeah, why not? 122 Portland, 119 Orlando. Lillard was great again. This guy just can't be stopped.
Oi, Damo, give us your lighter.
41, 9 and 6, 2 steals and a block. Didn't shoot well, 40%, but getting to the line 20 times and hitting 17 is awesome. Jeremy Grant also pretty strong. 20 and 6, 7 assists, a steal and 2 blocks. Now, his defensive stats have been off this year, but it's good to see him get them. And there was no Anthony Simons. The problem here, they play tomorrow. I don't know whether Simons are going to play or Nurkic is going to play or Winslow is going to play. I'll assume they aren't. So Reddish, who played 37 minutes, is worth looking at. But Reddish could also have 3 points next game. He had 16, 5 and 3, 2 steals and 2 triples. They're leaning heavily into him over their homegrown lottery pick rookie, Shaedon Sharpe, which is a confusing call, but that's what they're doing. 16, 5 and 3 for Reddish is great, and that's streamable. That's 12-teamable. We also got more minutes for Nasir Little, 27 minutes, 11, 5 and 3 with 3 threes, while Eubanks had 13 and 6. Not a bad game, just no blocks from Drew, while Thibault struggled in this one. 6 points on 29%, but he brought 8 rebounds. Just we didn't get the bulk defensive stats, which is what really carries him. We still roster Matisse Thybulle, but understand that some of the big offensive games that he was producing for us, they're just not a realistic feature. That's not going to be there for him every game. For the Magic, they were without Wendell Carter, who was a late scratch in this one, and so was Gary Harris. So 2 starters down. They started Flaming Mo Wagner at center. Mo Wagner played 33 minutes and had 15 and 7. Not a great game. 4 of 7 from the line hurts as well, but still, if Wendell's out, we stream him in. Now, this is a situation where you thought, hey, we could have had a real big opportunity for Bol. No Gary Harris, no John Isaac, no Wendell Carter Jr., and Bol played 17 minutes. It's just not enough. I don't know what happened at the start of the year where he was playing 30 minutes, and I know what happened. About 5 rotation players were out, but he's just out of favor. 9, 8, and 3 is not a bad line. A 1-1 is really good, but I'm not worried about him in 12s. Fultz, 15, 5 and 8, 4 steals, continues to be great. While Franz Wagner, who did have a bit of an ankle problem, played through it, 24, 2 and 6. The interesting one here is Jalen Suggs. 35 minutes, 15 and 4, 3 steals. He started with Gary Harris out and played well next to Fultz. Will this be the impetus that Jamal Mosley needs to keep him as the starter next to Harris? I'd like to think so, but I'm not convinced. But I don't. It is hard to take flyers on people at this point of the year in fantasy playoffs because he might go to the bench and play 24 minutes next game. But I wouldn't rule out him maintaining a starting role. Suggsy. 3 steals is good. Again, he's going to hurt you in a lot of areas, his shooting in particular. And the minutes will probably be reduced. But it's not bad to look at him. Cole Anthony didn't really do much, and this is him as well. 5 points, 22%. He might have 17 points on 6 shots next game. When they come, you've got no idea. And the ups and downs in his playing time and his production makes it really hard to label him must roster. While Polo was good with 26, 5 and 2, 1-1. 7 of 10 from the line's a little bit annoying, but everything else really, really solid there for Paulo Banchero. Let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder now in their game. There's a lot to talk about. They beat the Jazz comfortably. The 10-point margin probably doesn't do it justice. 129-119. Let's talk Jazz first. They signed Chris Dunn to another 10-day. I think they'll sign him rest of season. 17, 2 and 3, 3 threes in 27 minutes. And while Sexton is out, he's a 12-team league option. Horton Tucker, 24 minutes, and that's fewer minutes than Dunn. First time that's happened. 11, 3 and 3 for Horton Tucker, who still can be a 12-teamer, but we know he has some issues. Kessler 17 and 10 with 5 blocks for the big fella, while Olynyk had 15, 10 and 5. Good numbers there. And Jordy Clarkson, the man on the street, he returned.
JordanClarkson.
18, 4 and 12. We love that. Solid enough game from Ochai Agbaji as well. 14 points with 2 steals in 31 minutes, but I'm not rushing in 12 or even 14 team leagues to add him. He just isn't a guy that's shown enough as a regular permanent producer for me to get excited, even if he is a short-term starter. For the Thunder, as I was talking about, Shai played 37 minutes. 38, 7 and 4, 3 steals, a block, 59 shooting, 89, or actually 90% from the line on 19 attempts. It's insane. These numbers are crazy. There is absolutely 0 minutes restriction in this game. But I am not precluding it. My point earlier in the show was, just to clarify, because I've been sitting here thinking, did I make the right point? Sitting here that say, that statement from Dagnott did not say that he is done. Like, people are like panicking. Now, they play 2 back-to-backs next week, which is bad news. Will he play both of those back-to-backs? I've got no idea. I would expect he sits at least 1 game. And I think the minutes for him, instead of 37 tonight, which is a lot, maybe 34. But again, what I am pushing back on is the I told you so's and the narratives of, well, all you had to do was pay attention. If you didn't pay attention, what are you doing, man? You just don't know what you're talking about. Like that sort of theory about what the Thunder do, because it gets overblown and misrepresented all the time. I have no idea what happens from here on out, but it's pretty bloody good today. Speaking of pretty bloody good.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Yeah, it's fucking right indeed, mate. 32, 5 and 5, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4 threes. 80% shooting. Now, this is going to come down in a huge way. He's a top 15 player over the last week. He's now 87th for the season. It is going to come down. He is shooting the lights out. He is getting 1 million steals. All right, it is going to come down. But I said in the preseason, wait, I think by January, he'll be better than Lou Dort. Well, that's gone. That's done, right? We know that. He is probably better than Josh Giddey at this point. The interesting thing is where he fits in the pecking order behind Shai and Chet and incoming rookie next season. He is really good. 32, 5 and 5, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4 threes is amazing from Jalen Williams. Amazing. Giddey was good as well, man. Like, I'm not going to say he was bad. 24, 9 and 9. That's awesome. Well, even Usman Jeng was good. 20 minutes, 12 and 4, 2 threes and 2 steals. Now, Jeng, he's playing a little bit better of late, but we're not doing anything there in fantasy. Lou Dort was shithouse. 4 points, 11%. If I had Lou Dort in a dynasty league, I'd be shitting myself because I don't think there is any real way, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think he's guaranteed a starting spot next season. Well, Chet's going to take one of those spots and Chet will start at center, but will they really want to go with Jalen Williams at the 4? Will they want to move him into the 3? Will they get another draft pick who plays the 4? I don't know. I'm very worried about Lou Dort's rotation value future. Isaiah Joe, only 6 points, but they're both on 3s. That's what he does. He's a 3-point streamer, and he delivered that. And the nights that Shai sits out, we stream him even in shallower formats. Otherwise, he's just a deeper league guy. While Pig Williams, 2 rebounds in 20 minutes, we can't really trust that. Also, Jeremiah Robinson now out of the rotation for 2 straight games. Very interesting. Sharich had 8 and 3 in 14 minutes, while Aaron Wiggins had 1 point in 15 minutes. We can't really trust his playing time at all. So my main takeaway with the Thunder is don't overreact to the Shai stuff. Don't be ready to celebrate that he's not getting shut down. Don't be ready to celebrate that he is getting shut down. Just understand that he is playing, and what you may have taken out of it, despite certain fantasy sites playing as Shai, brackets Wembanyama, brackets tanking, gonna sit games, it's not quite as accurate as what the reality is here. Not saying he's not going to sit games. Not saying he's not going to reduce minutes, because he is. That is going to happen. But this is not the end of Shai's season, as some people were quick to jump to. I don't know. I don't know why it annoys me so much. I guess because it's just like his narrative that takes off that's not true. Again, he played until March 21st last season. There's just something about it that frustrates me. The next game. Well, the Spurs and the Rockets. I don't know what to take out of what the Spurs do and the Rockets do, to be honest, moving forward. Probably the Spurs more to the point. 142 Houston, 110 San Antonio. And San Antonio had no Zach Collins, no Trey Jones, no Jeremy Sohan, no Doug McDermott. So I think they're just going to be all guys in and out of rotations all season. And they do not play till Friday. I would hold on to Vassell. I would probably hold on to Keldon. And I would drop everybody else. I would consider Zach Collins a drop. If you can get by, you hold him. He's the third one. But I wouldn't hold Trey Jones. I wouldn't hold Sohan. I obviously wouldn't hold McDermott. I wouldn't hold Bassey. I wouldn't hold Graham. I wouldn't hold Branham. No games for 4 days is impossible to deal with unless you're talking real stud stuff. Now, as for Vassell, he played 29 minutes today, started, had 13 points, 5 assists. Only shot 33%, but some encouraging stuff. While Branham had 13 and 7 on elite efficiency. But how do we know every game what's going to happen with rotations? Like, there are 3 starters that didn't play in this game. Collins, Jones, and Sohan. Like, it's very hard to know game by game. Old mate Goldfinger, 25 minutes for Charlie Bassey, 14 and 6 with a block. Thank you for your service. We'll add you again on Friday. Well, Devontae Graham had 14, 2 and 4 in 24 minutes, and he's a drop, clearly. It was a stinker from the horse, Keldon Johnson.
Whose horse is that?
8, 4 and 5 on 30% shooting. He's been better, but he's 131st in category leagues. He's 209th over the last week. Maybe he's not a hold. I think he probably is, but his category league game is so limited. His efficiency can be bad like it was today, and the lack of defensive stats does hurt. So I get it if you do want to drop him because of those deficiencies. Keita Bates-Diop had 17 points in 23 minutes. I honestly, there's no guarantee he plays every night because Collins, Jones, Sohan, McDermott, they will all probably get some minutes, maybe even Langford. People have to miss out. They also played Mamu 17 minutes under Mamakalishvili, 6 and 4 in those minutes, while Don Barlow had 7 and 4 in 23. For the Rockets, Cousin Kev played 32 minutes. Kevin Porter, 19, 4 and 13, while the delicate dancer Alperen Şengün got 27 minutes.
It's a delicate dance in just 17 steps.
You would have hoped for a few more, but 15 and 14 with 3 steals and a block is pretty good. And Jalen Green also, 31 points. Now, Green is a little bit Tim Hardaway. It's points, and then I'm not sure what else is going on. 31, 2 and 2, but he shot well, and he's been pretty good over the last week or so. The big news, I think, is 30 minutes again for Tari Tank season. 17 and 8, 1 3, 1 steal, 54 from the field. Now, 2 of 4 from the line is not great, but he's got to be rostered. We're seeing the minutes push up. Finally, it's happening. We're here. It's done. KJ Martin, only 27 minutes, 13 and 3. Well, it was a good game from the Wild Thing. Jayshawn Tate.
Even the Wild Thing's gone well. I can't do much about that.
16 points, a triple one, 23 minutes. Good, but he shot 71%. And I just don't really think we need to worry about adding him. And Jabari Smith, man, I was so wrong on him in the preseason. I thought he'd be consistently solid with his shooter, get some good defensive stats. He's been bad basically all year. In saying that, he's still, 172nd, so he's not dreadful, but he's obviously bad for where you drafted him and not really a 12-team league guy, so move on. 11 and 4 for Jabari in his 27 minutes. Again, you would have loved to have got a little bit extra there, but it was a blowout, to be fair. Jalen Green only played 27 minutes. Şengün only played 27 minutes, so there was some blowout factors involved in that as well. The New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics are double overtime. The Knicks win at 131-129. There was no Jalen Brunson, so Immanuel Quickley played 55 minutes. What? 55 minutes. Didn't miss a single second in the second half or both overtimes. Crazy. 38, 8 and 7, 4 steals, 2 blocks, 5 triples. Did this game, even though he was a starter, did this seal him as the 6th man of the year? Maybe. That's an amazing game. We keep rolling with him. I thought he'd lose quite a bit with Josh Hart back, but they actually took quite a bit of it off of RJ Barrett, and he's been solid. Some days he'll only play 24 minutes, which is frustrating. This is ridiculous. The double royal, Julius Randle, also had 31 points. 31, 9 and 4, while RJ Barrett played 50, had 29 and 11 with 3 threes. This doesn't mean that Barrett's back, because again, no Brunson helped. Joshy Hart, 40 minutes, 10 and 8. He would have hoped for a little bit more more minutes there. Well, imagine a time where Mitch Robinson can play 44 minutes. We got it. Wasn't a great night. He didn't block a single shot, which is wild, but 13 and 14 for him is strong. And still only 25 minutes for Quentin Grimes. 4 points for him. You can obviously go and drop him. And only 10 minutes for Hartenstein too. People are still holding him in 12. I don't really know why. You can go drop him there. For the Celtics, there was no Rob Williams. There was no Malcolm Brogdon. Horford played 46 minutes. He's 100% not playing tomorrow. 20 and 14, 6 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 6 triples. A gigantic game. Jaylen Brown, 29 and 8 with 4 steals and a block. Is he going to sit tomorrow? I'd say there's a big chance. Jason Tatum, 49 minutes. Had to go take a piss multiple times during the game in the locker room. 40 and 11 with 6 triples and 6 assists on 30 attempts. A risk of him sitting tomorrow, I would say as well. 32 minutes for Derek White. I would have liked a little bit more from him.
Maximum Derek.
But he's going to have a huge chance tomorrow. 12-6, a 1-1. We roll with him. Understand there can be drop moments coming up when they're healthy, but they're not, so it doesn't matter. Marcus Smart had 13, 3 and 4, and Grant Williams went from DNP to 44 minutes. 9-6, and we still don't need to roster him because he's not a very good fantasy player, but he had 9-6, and he did play a lot of minutes. They went with an 8-man rotation and a double overtime game. Muscala played 12 and Hauser played 20, and neither of those guys did anything in that playing time they were given. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Washington Wizards. The Bucks win at 117, 111. Is Giannis back with defensive stats? I don't know.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
He had 3 blocks, so that's good. 23, 10, and 13. The triple-double was egregious. Right at the end of the game, no one was trying. He just threw the ball off the backboard to himself so he could get his 10th rebound. But he went 11 of 15 from the line and was 50% from the field. Solid. Better game. Drew 19, 2 and 7, while Brook Lopez had 15 and 6. But another bad Bobby Portis night. And I think we'd get rid of him. 5 and 7 in 19 minutes. The upside to minutes requires a few injuries here, and they're not there. Middleton was out of this game, so bear that in mind when looking at Grayson Allen's 31 minutes or Javon Carter's 22. Carter had 20 points with 6 threes. We know he gets hot, and he'll have 1 point next game. While Allen is always a good 3-point streamer, he had 3 threes here in his 31 minutes, but with no Middleton and Dragic maybe being a part of things, it's hard to get excited. Crowder also only played 14 minutes here. For the Wiz, no Kuzma, so they started Anthony Gill. I don't know why, but they did, and he had 2 points, which is awesome. While Kispert had 11 with 3 threes in 36 minutes. Actually, a bit disappointing that without Kuzma, Dan Gafford played only 24 minutes. Again, that solidifies my theory that Kuzma's minutes don't have actually anything to do with Gafford's playing time. Yeah, he played 31 last game or 2 games ago with Kuzma, and then without Kuzma, he plays fewer minutes. 8-6, that's bad. I still think as a whole, the schedule works in his favor, but it's frustrating. It was a big Denny Avdia game. After shitting himself last game, he had 17-6 with 3 steals and 2 triples. Still just streamer and useful when their schedule works in your favor. Beal had 33, while Porzingis had 12 and 13 with 2 blocks. And it wasn't the best Delon Wright game, but 10, 3, and 5 with 2 steals is absolutely good enough, and he remains an absolute 12-team must-roster player. And the last game of the night was pretty crazy. The Grizzlies went up huge. They scored 51 points in the third quarter and then went 7.5 minutes scoring 2 points in the fourth quarter. They lose to the Clippers 135-129. A lot of guys out for Memphis. Obviously, Ja Morant is out. Steven Adams was out. And Dylan Brooks was suspended. So they entered into the starting lineup Tyus Jones and David Roddy. Jonesy, 36 minutes, 25, 3 and 12, 5 steals, 5 triples, 64% shooting. It will not be as good as this. But he is clearly a must-roster player. I don't know when Ja is back, but Tyus Jones is a must-roster player every single league, every single format. Bano had 30 and 4 with 6 assists and 4 triples, and Jaren had 24 and 5 with a gigantic Richie Beno.
2 for 2.
2 threes, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. The Duck, Luke Kennard, also stepped up without Brooks. 29 minutes for him, 15 points, 5 threes. He was a good streamer. I think Brooks will hurt him, although I do think without Ja, there is a chance for Kennard to be a bit of a ball handler in that second unit. And they didn't use Kennedy Chandler as a backup point guard, so maybe Kennard can just push maybe into 14-team league value. Xavier Tillman played 34 minutes, 13 and 5 with 2 steals. Rough shooting night from the field and from the line for Tillman, but we keep rolling with him until Adams comes back, which might be next game, might be a couple more games. Roddy, I said, had 8 points with 2 steals, but I don't think we need to worry too much about that. And then you got Lil John Concha. 20 minutes with 5 points and a steal. Not the biggest opportunity here. There was an opportunity, but with Kennard in town, he just doesn't get it, and he's not going to play that many minutes as we move forward. For the Clippers, thought this was going to be a disaster, but Paul George was really good, I thought, towards the end especially. 42 and 11. Yes, it was a foul against Jaren Jackson. I'm sure it was. 42 and 11, 4 threes. Great shooting from the field and from the line. And Kawhi also, 34 and 10, really turned it on towards the end of the game. He was 13 of 13 from the line, Kawhi Leonard. They moved Eric Gordon to the bench, but he played starters minutes. 33 minutes, 17 points. We're not overreacting to that. He took 7 shots. He hit 6 of them. That's really good. But we're not adding him outside of those deep formats. While Plumlee played 21 minutes, the Cockroach 15 and 9, and Zubats had 6 and 9 in 18 minutes. Now, some of that is just Zubats' calf. They said they were going to limit his minutes. We don't need to have Plumlee on our roster. And the Clippers, remember, played 2 games this week. So with 2 games this week, like holding on to Mason Plumlee doesn't make sense. Honestly, having Zubats on your roster doesn't really make sense either. With only 2 games, limited minutes, fantasy playoffs, I don't think you need to hold him. Westbrook, in a category league, I don't know what happens here. Let's just state 34 minutes, 9 points, no threes, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 44% shooting. He had 4 turnovers. I still don't think he makes any sense in this lineup whatsoever. And they've got 2 games this week. Will they make a change? I don't think they will, considering they won this game. But with 2 games, is Westbrook enough to hold on to? It's very borderline. In a points league, he probably will be. In a category league, I don't think so. Terrence Mann, obviously not, 18 minutes. Batum, 17 minutes. Marcus Morris, 25. He got benched for the second half. Batum started over him, but still played more minutes than Batum. And, so Covington, who was great last game without Leonard, DMP. So if you did add Covington, and I know a lot of people did, obviously not a part of their rotation or their healthy squad, so you can go ahead and drop Covington. And the fact that they won today, even though it was looking dreadful, makes me think that wholesale rotation changes won't necessarily be coming any point quickly. And again, they have 2 games. So if you need to drop guys, Westbrook, Zubats, Plumlee, Gordon, Morris, Batum, like the value of them this week is really, really low. Your monstrous line of the night does go to Immanuel Quickley, 55-minute legend Immanuel Quickley. The waiver wire line of the night is Denny Avdia. Young gun is the Bronco Jalen Williams. And the dud of the night is Jordan Poole. The top 10 players in category leagues: Immanuel Quickley at 1, Tyus Jones 2, Halliburton 3, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 4, Paul George at 5, Jalen Williams 6, Al Horford 7, Kevin Durant 8, Josh Giddey at 9, and Kawhi Leonard at 10. Your top 10 players rostered under 50. Number 1 is Denny Avdia. Good game today. I don't really trust it. Austin Reeves, there's stream value in Avdia, Reeves, and Dunn for sure. Chris Dunn was at number 3 on that list. When Sexton comes back, I'm not sure he actually plays, but he's got value now. Luke Kennard, I think there is some stream value in him. He's at 4, and Hardaway's at 5. All 5 of those first guys on that list have 12-team stream value. Jay Sean Tate at 6, I'm not that interested in. Eric Gordon at 7. We just talked about the 2-game week. Bol was pretty good, but the low minutes worry me. Nasir Little, I'm not convinced. And Javon Carter, absolutely not. Top 10 players in points leagues. Number 1, Quickley, followed by Lillard, Tyus Jones, Anthony Davis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jason Tatum, Paul George, Devin Booker, and the Bronco, Jalen Williams. And guys, that'll do it for me today. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on the Odyssey app. An update, I did win my matchup in the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. So we're down to the final 4 in each division now. We'll see how we go with that one next week. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.